Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April the 19th, 2023. And yes, this title is not clickbait. This is not clickbait, you guys. I've been warning y'all for years, especially on my channel, about keeping more of an eye on your children, because these are the days where the enemy is after your children. He's been after the children, but I think it's more prevalent nowadays, and you can see it, especially just turning on your TV and social media, even listening to some of your politicians. So apparently the UN has called for the decriminalization of sexual activity between children and adults. Now, we're going to get into the article, and it's going to go into more of an explanation. It's going to go more into depth of what that means and how you, as a parent, need to stand up and fight for your children. Because we know that the enemy he's going hard after these kids right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is why I'm so adamant about the whole issue of abortion, because whatever children can't be stopped from being born, if you can't stop them in the womb, he's going to try to get them as early as he can, as soon as they come out. I mean, there's even been some of these states and governors and stuff who's proposed bills to where a woman can have a quote unquote abortion even after the baby is out of the womb, until 3 days after the baby is out of the womb. So if the lady within 3 days after she's given birth can turn around and says, hey, you know what? I don't think I want this baby. And they can turn around and euthanize the baby in 3 days. After 3 days, the baby is born. But I have to continue to keep reminding you guys that we don't fight against flesh and blood. We're fighting against spirits and principalities. That's what I want you guys to understand before we actually get into this article. Because a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to say, well, it's a certain group of people, it's a certain race of people. It has nothing to do with any of that. This is a spiritual battle. And there's only one way to fight a spiritual battle. All right. Amen. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into this article. The title is UN report calls for decriminalization of all sexual activity, including between adults and children, i.e. pedophilia, you guys. And this is actually from a new website that my wife put me on to. Shout out to her, Live Action News. And this might be a website where I may be doing a lot of reading from, because I was going through their site and there is a lot of articles that are being written that kind of leans towards my content, a lot of content that I do, and a lot of content that I do like to cover. And as you guys come in, please, please, please hit the like button. Good morning, Doki Bible Club. All right. It says a new report from the United Nations has called for all forms of drug use and sexual activity to be decriminalized globally. Now, I'm wondering, why are they calling for the decriminalization of drug use? Right? Now, when you think about people such as like prostitutes and stuff. One of the things that goes hand in hand with prostitution is drug use. And that's how the pimps you know, uh, keep control of their prostitutes by getting them high. And I've heard that from every case, from every prostitute. They get them high and they can control them better. But let's continue to read. Let's continue to read. I'm just telling you guys to read between the lines. Written by the International Committee of Jurists, ICJ, uh, UNAIDS, UNAIDS. I don't know what acronym that is, and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR. Right. So I want y'all to keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. The report was released on International Women's Day with the goal of guiding, quote, the application of international human rights law to criminal law, end quote, called the, quote, 8 March Principles, end quote. The report calls for offenses related to, quote, sex, drug use, HIV, sexual and reproductive health, i.e., abortion, homelessness, and poverty, end quote, to be decriminalized. First of all, how is HIV criminalized? The only thing that I can think of is that if a person knowingly has HIV and they don't disclose that to their partner, um, that's what I don't understand. You want to decriminalize that? Now I know everyone, who's an adult, they make their own decisions, and maybe these are questions that you should ask and do your background and all of that. Yeah, I get that. I get that. But at the same time, when people had COVID-19, if you was to uh, walk into a place and you knowingly had COVID-19 during the pandemic, they were talking about locking you up. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Reproductive health. They want to decriminalize, or they want to keep legislation from being passed that would criminalize abortion, which is the intentional killing of a baby in the womb. Now, this is what I don't get. Homelessness and poverty. This is where they try to pull at your heartstrings. Decriminalize homelessness and poverty. How are people who are homeless and in poverty criminals? How is that criminalized? So you see how they try to use certain terms and mix all of these things together to say, well, let's decriminalize all of this stuff. Well, people who are homeless and who are in poverty shouldn't be put in jail. Well, yeah, we agree with that. Well, a person who has HIV shouldn't be put in jail, right? Well, yeah, we agree with that as well. But then when they turn around and say, well, then we should decriminalize, uh, you know, adult and child relationships. Oh, wait, hold on, wait. Y'all going a little too far. What does that have to do with anything else? How do you put that in the same category with homelessness and poverty? The United Nations experts say that criminalizing offenses related to these issues constitute an attack on human rights. I just want y'all to pay attention to what's being said. Okay, quote, criminal law is among the harshest of tools at the disposal of the state to exert control over individuals. As such, it ought to be a measure of last resort. However, globally, there has been a growing trend towards criminalization. And Siderman, law and policy director at ICJ, said in the press release, quote, we must acknowledge that these laws not only violate human rights, but the fundamental principles of criminal law themselves, end quote. Basically, do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt. That's Aleister Crowley. Do whatever you want. We don't want to take you to jail for anything any crime that you commit. That's basically what they're saying. You should be able to do whatever you want, even when it comes to having inappropriate relationships with children. That's what they're alluding to. While on the surface, it may seem relatively uncontroversial. The report calls for sex between adults and minors to be decriminalized as long as the minors quote unquote consent. And I want you to pay attention to this because they're saying that hold on, let me see if I can blow this up because it looks pretty small on the screen. So I want us to be able to get a real good look at this. Okay. So I find it ironic that earlier, when we scroll up, that they want to decriminalize drug use, but then they want to talk about quote unquote consent between a child and an adult, sexual relationships between a child and an adult. Because what I'm putting together, this is what I'm putting together so far in this article. We haven't even read 25% of it. Is that you want to decriminalize drugs, right? That's number one. Then you want to decriminalize sex between minors and adults, as long as the child consents. So you know what? Help a child consent to such an atrocity? You give them drugs, take them out of their mind. I'm telling you, got to read between the lines. All right. So this is from I think this is from the report, right? Right. Now, this is what they're saying in the report. Pay attention to this. With respect to the enforcement of criminal law, any prescribed minimum age of consent to sex must be applied in a non discriminatory manner. Enforcement may not be linked to the sex or gender of participants or age of consent to marriage. Moreover, sexual conduct involving persons below the domestically prescribed minimum age of consent to sex may be consensual, in fact, if not in law. In this context, the enforcement of criminal law should reflect the rights and capacity of persons under 18 years of age to make decisions about engaging in consensual sexual conduct and their right to be heard in matters concerning them. This is why when people say, well, don't use the word pedophile, use minor attracted persons. So now children are these persons. Children are not children anymore when it comes to sexualizing them. When it comes to sexualizing children, oh, they're persons now. They're just persons with a different age. They can make their own decisions. Of course, when they're being led by an adult. The report continues. Pursuant to their involving capacities and progressive autonomy, persons under 18 years of age should participate in decisions affecting them with due regard to their age, maturity, and best interests, with specific attention to non discrimination guarantees. Right. So that is the end of that particular segment in that report. I hope y'all paying attention to what they're saying. Let's continue. Minors, of course, cannot truly consent to sex with an adult, something these so called experts should know. The report also calls for all criminal laws relating to sex work to be abolished, which could easily serve to aid traffickers, pimps, and abusers. In turn, this serves the abortion industry as well, which has aided traffickers and abusers by failing to report suspected abuse and returning victims to their abusers after their abortions. And that is a huge reason why I'm against abortion. A lot of people think, well, let's just say some innocent girl, she gets pregnant or she gets raped or something like that. We got to have these things in place in order for excuse me. Hold on, give me a second. All right, there we go. I had to clear the throat. But anyway, but when it comes to abortion, people want to try to fight for that less than 1% of women and girls who have been raped. But they don't want to talk about the 98, 99% of women who are going to get them out of convenience. And included with those people and with those numbers are your traffickers who are going to these abortion clinics, taking these young girls up there, no questions asked. No questions asked. It can be some grown man who don't even look like any of these females. It could be, the guy could be a one race and a young girl could be a totally different race, and he can just take her up there to have her get an abortion and no questions asked. Although the abortion clinic and the people working there may be like, man, this don't really look right. But the way that the laws are written, you can't ask no questions. Just do it. They paying the money. You can't stop them from getting an abortion. And once these girls had these abortions, they put them back out there to be trafficked again, destroying these girls' bodies with abortion because of sex trafficking, which, by the way, is well over $1 billion a year industry. So it's a lot of layers to a lot of this. It's it's a lot of layers, man. Let's continue. Excuse me. Decriminalizing sex work, sex crimes against minors, and abortion will only serve to undoubtedly suit traffickers and abusers who are known to use abortion as a means to cover up their crimes. Additionally, the reproductive health is a catchphrase for abortion, of which the United Nations is an avid supporter. The UN has long promoted abortion as a quote unquote so called human right. Just like I've brought out in other reports and other videos, when a natural disaster happens in a country, especially this has been documented in Africa, if a natural disaster happens, Planned Parenthood runs over there with contraception and these little makeshift abortion clinics. And it's like, well, we need food, we need water. We just lost our homes. Why are you guys over here passing out condoms and birth control and trying to coerce women to have abortions when we just need the basic survival tools? And if a country says, hey, we don't want Planned Parenthood over here, we don't want these people over here trying to restrict the numbers of children being born. We just need food, water, shelter. That's what we need. Well, take if you don't take this quote unquote um what do they call it? Reproductive health care. If you don't take the reproductive health care, then we're not going to send any aid over there at all. Kale says, I think I've heard about 40% of abortions are from pressure by friends and family. That's horrible. Yeah, it is. And I'm pretty sure those numbers are accurate. Might be even be higher than that. I think that was the end of this particular article. It wasn't that long. This article, one thing that I did like about it was that it was just straight to the point. But listen, here's the thing. I've been trying to warn people about it, and I'm going to continue to keep warning y'all about these things as well. I remember I did a couple of videos, and I wonder, can I bring it up? Let me see if I can bring it up on my YouTube channel so you guys can kind of be aware of some of these topics. And maybe if you guys want to, you can go and check these things out for yourself. Check out some of my old videos. Let me see. Let me see. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up. Let's see if I can pull my videos up. Let me try this. See if I can share the screen. So these are basically a lot of my videos and stuff. And I'm gonna see if I can try to scroll down for some videos that has kind of led to, or oh, what happened? I stopped sharing my screen for some reason. Anyway, I don't really have too much time. So anyway, I've done quite a bit of topics on this. I had one video entitled LGBTQP, where you had pedophiles. This is what, maybe about 6 7 years ago. They were allowing themselves to. They didn't mind being called pedophiles, but now you can't call them pedophiles because that's a derogatory term. We need to call them minor attracted persons now. And I brought out during that video, and I brought out clips, I brought out quotes and all of that stuff about 6 7 years ago, telling people that the pedophiles was trying to add themselves to the LGBTQ acronym. Now, of course, they got a lot of pushback from the LGBTQ community. And to be fair, there are a lot of LGBTQ people who are adults who don't believe in the sexualization of children. That I can tell you. So it's not just the LGBTQ community that's really trying to push this, trying to push the sexualization of children. They're being used just like every other institution to do so. That's why when you look at drag queen story hour and taking kids to nightclubs, I did a video about that where this school in Florida, South Florida, actually the area where I'm from, one of the schools took the children on a field trip to a gay nightclub. A field trip to a gay nightclub. Can't make it up. That's like somebody taking kids to a strip club. I just, man, yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, Ja Tony, he says, haven't heard this report anywhere but here, not reported on MSM. Salute. Yeah, and the thing is that you're not really going to hear about this because the media is trying their best to bury stories like this. And you can say whatever you want with Fox News. Guess what? Fox News covered this. That's why I tell people, don't just sit back and just say, "Well, I don't read that news outlet." Well, I try to stay away from this news outlet. No, read them all because you're gonna find the truth in all of them. That's why when I heard this article, before I actually read it, I went and I looked it up to see who else is covering it, to see if this is actually accurate. Because I don't want to put out no false information. And sure enough, the first people to pop up was Fox News. Fox News covered this. That's why I tell people, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't get on that whole political, oh, that's right wing stuff, that's left wing stuff. No, read it all. Read it all. But like I was saying before, I've covered this quite a few times. And I'm going to continue to keep covering it because you guys got to be aware of what's happening, the war on your children. This is not a game. I think Washington State is, I don't know if they passed this particular bill or if they just drafted it up to where if you refuse to take your children to go get transgender surgeries, the government is writing up a bill to where they can forcibly take your children out of your homes. They can take your children and say that you're restricting them of necessary medical care by not allowing them to go and get transgender surgery, basically mutilating their bodies. You see what I'm saying? If you don't go and have these children get their bodies mutilated, all in the name of transgenderism, then the government can step in and they can take your children. That's what's being passed now. Now I'm gonna tell you like this. This is not far-fetched because you know what? Canada and the UK had already proposed this maybe about 5, 6 years ago. I don't know if I covered that story, but I know I've talked about it. I may have done a new segment on that. But yeah, over there in the UK and Canada, oh yeah, I don't know if they're already doing it, but I know that this was a thing a few years ago, and they were out bold saying that. So now when you couple this, the whole thing with decriminalizing drug use and trying to decriminalize sexual activity of children, and I find it ironic that the UN is now trying to step in and do something like this, especially when Uganda, was it Uganda? One of those African countries over there, and I think it was Uganda, when they were saying that they were criminalizing homosexuality, basically saying that a person who was homosexual could be, you know, criminalized based on their sexual activity. Now, me personally, I think that this is a hard issue, and you're not going to be able to fix this by throwing people in jail. All you're going to do is create a resistance and create stuff like this to where the UN and governments and other Western governments have to step in and try to label these things as human rights issues. And then it gets really, really political and really, really messy real quick. So that's why I don't really agree with that. Um, because again, this is a hard issue, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other things that's going on in Uganda that need to be looked at as being criminalized more than homosexuality, because um there's a lot of rape and all types of stuff that happens over there in Uganda. There's a lot of crimes that are being committed, with kids over there in them countries. So, let's not get that twisted. That's why I believe that we got to have the same energy across the board. That's why it's important for us to preach the gospel. That's why we have to preach the gospel. We got to stand firm, because if we get out here and we just say, "Hey, decriminalizing sexual activity between adults and kids," yeah, that's wrong. Abortion is wrong. And here's the thing: I can say, "Man, listen, I'm with you. I'm with you." But by what foundation? Why do you believe that is wrong? Because the Bible specifically tells us that, number one, all people are made in the image of God. Number two, that we are to protect these children. And that in order for us to even come to the kingdom of God, we have to come like a child. That's what the Bible tells us. So when it comes to human beings, especially children, those those are the people that we need to protect, because God, he likens us to come into the kingdom as children. I can't remember what the scripture says verbatim, and I really don't have time to pull it up. But Christ said that uh, the children will have the highest position in the kingdom, or those who come to the kingdom like children will have the highest in the position. Somebody put that in the chat before we get ready to get up out of here. Mega Jam says secularists know that this was wrong, but they can't argue why this stuff is wrong from their perspective. Yeah, correct. And it just leads to compromise. It leads to a bunch of compromise. And what happens is that when you compromise so much, you get stuff like this that happens, to where now the UN is calling for not just a decriminalization of sexual activity, which that is the main focus. That is the overall plan. But you got to compromise with um, decriminalization stuff like what did they say earlier? Poverty, homelessness, HIV. It's crazy. It's crazy. But bottom line, listen, man, y'all listen, raise your children in the admonition of the Lord. When it comes to social media, and I cringe every time I see children on social media. Like when I do my TikToks and stuff, a lot of people that do be liking my videos be these underage kids. And I mean, of course, I put out Christian content and I'm glad that they're getting the word of God. But I'm just like, number one, why are you a preteen all on TikTok? And then when you go to their page, they got music in their videos with the cursing and the lewd and lascivious content. Some of these little girls be on there dancing all provocative and stuff. And I'm just like, who are your parents? Who's monitoring this stuff? And you'll be surprised of how many of us in the church who claim that we love the Lord and we preaching holiness and righteousness to everyone else, but our children are wilding out on social media, talking to God knows who on social media and video games. Really, really monitor and be involved with your children's lives. Don't just do a quick 30-minute Bible study a day and think that that's going to suffice. No, you got to really be involved. Because the enemy, he is not sleeping. He's not going to stop until you get your children in. And us as Christians, we got to fight for our children nowadays. But anyway, guys, as I get ready to get up out of here, you guys go ahead and hit that like button once again. Hit that like button. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below, right? What do y'all think about this topic? I mean, I think that this is just very alarming. Very alarming. And this doesn't seem like it's letting up. It don't seem like it's letting up. It seems like that these people are full steam ahead. They've gotten the UN involved, the United Nations. So I mean, this is evil. This is evil. Well, anyway, guys, as I get ready to head up out of here, like this video, rate it, share it, subscribe, hit that notifications bell so whenever I get ready to go live, you guys will be the first ones to be here. And whenever I drop a video, you guys will be the first ones to see it. And with that, see you guys next time, Lord willing.